Hello everyone. Welcome to Plenty Podcast. I'm Amanthee and today we are going to talk about the Titan and the Titanic with Randy Silva. I hope everyone remembers the unfortunate Titan accident from June and everyone has of course heard about the Titanic. So today we will be discussing about these very famous yet very unfortunate vessels with our in-house expert on the subject. So Ryan, shall we start with the Titanic? Can you tell us very briefly about the shipwreck, who discovered it, and also interestingly, who owns it?
Hi Amanthee. Thank you very much for inviting me to the Plenty talk space. I hope this discussion will bring some background knowledge to the people who are interested in this trending topic of the Titan submersible, which went missing a few weeks ago, and it brings back the very famous story back to the attention, the sinking of the Titanic. So, answering to your first question, what is about this shipwreck? What's so important about this shipwreck? The Titanic was a British passenger liner that infamously sank on its maiden voyage in 1912 after hitting an iceberg. It was one of the most deadliest, peacetime maritime disasters in our history, resulting in more than 1,500 lives being lost at sea. But the irony is that when she was launched, she was considered as an engineering marvel. She was massive, measuring about 882 feet in length and weighing around 46,000 tons. She was designed to accommodate more than 2,200 people. But the important thing is she was designed to provide unparalleled luxury, not just to carry 2,200 passengers, but carry them with style and luxury. She had, massive dining rooms, opulent lounges, gymnasiums, squash courts, even a huge swimming pool inside her. And also Titanic incorporated the latest technological advancements of her time. She had a double bottom and a series of watertight compartments that intended to make the ship virtually unsinkable. I think some of these technological advancements you can see in the 1997 movie. But despite all of these, she sank after hitting an iceberg while on her first ever transatlantic voyage. And that's how we got our most famous shipwreck in the world. Yes, the story of the Titanic is fascinating, but she didn't go down to be forgotten. Even her shipwreck became a legend until she was found in 1985 by Dr. Robert Ballard, one of the well-known and very well-experienced oceanographers in the world. Titanic sank in 1912, and it was not as advanced in terms of record keeping, navigation systems, and all about. The ship sank in just 2 hours, so the exact location of the shipwreck was a mystery for a long time. And the ship's distress signals were transmitted with, relatively imprecise coordinates, and the wreckage was lost in this vast expanse of the North Atlantic. Yes, the ship was really big, but compare it with the scale of the ocean, and you'll understand it's just finding a needle in the haystack. So it was a scientific miracle when Robert was able to find the shipwreck. But he had an upper hand because he was experienced on finding shipwrecks that had faced similar incidents. So this is the part where it gets interesting. Back in the early 60s and 70s, 2 nuclear-powered submarines named USS Thresher and USS Scorpion, which was operated by the United States Navy, went down mysteriously, and the wrecks were needed to be located because the Navy needed to understand what happened and how to prevent it in their future designs. And also, these nuclear-powered submarines also had nuclear-powered weapons. The Navy hired Robert to find the missing submarines. and to avoid getting the attention from the Soviets, they created a cover story where they are going to find the Titanic. The Titanic search took place during the Cold War era, when there was heightened interest in the deep sea exploration. The US Navy was interested in improving their, deep sea technology and the capabilities of finding other submarines for military purposes. The Titanic search was organized as a joint mission between the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution and the US Navy. Ballard's role was to lead this scientific aspect of the expedition, and the Navy was providing the funding and the advanced equipment. Ballard had two goals in this mission. One is to obviously find the missing submarines, and the second one was to find the Titanic. After finding the missing submarines, he had around 12 days to spare in this mission. So he requested the Navy to let him find the Titanic, and they did so. He was able to find it by following the debris path of the wreck. Because as we already know, according to the eyewitnesses, the ship broke into two pieces. And when a ship breaks into two pieces, the internal compartments, the furniture, the parts of the engine, they will shatter across the ocean. Robert knew this, and following the trail of the debris was the method to find the wreck. Because he has used the same logic, and it was proven when finding the missing nuclear submarines, because they also had similar incidents. They were also imploded underwater. So all the internal compartments were shattered across the wreck site. If you are interested in having a look at this whole expedition, it's on the internet. And you will find this very touching moment where Robert and his team finding this wreck site, the most mysterious wrecks on the world. And they were cheering, and suddenly they come to a very, deep silence. They were cheering because they have found the mysterious and the most famous shipwreck in the world. And also, they came to this silence because they were cheering on top of the gravesite for more than 1,500 people. And for the ownership of the ship, the Titanic wreck is not actually owned by any, individual or an organization, but it is a maritime heritage site. It is similar to an archaeological site on land, and it's protected by international agreements, because the sea doesn't belong to anyone, specifically the international waters. So there should be agreements between different countries on how they will treat the site. And also it became a UNESCO convention on protecting this underwater cultural heritage. The company that originally held the salvage rights, RMS Titanic Incorporation, has conducted limited salvage operations to recover artifacts, but these operations have been subject to legal and ethical debates. The wreck itself remains in the ownership of no one, as it is treated as a memorial to the lives lost in the tragic sinking of this ship in 1912.
That's quite the find, isn't it? Now, I know this shipwreck is very important to those who are interested in it, like yourself. But could you please explain why this is important to the world on a social, political, even on a historical level?
Yes, that is a very good question. And when it comes to the social significance, I think the most relatable thing is that the story of the Titanic has become a cultural symbol of human hubris, the fragility of our technological advancements, and the potential consequence of arrogance and complacency. And also, the Titanic's tale has inspired numerous books, films, documentaries, and artworks, contributing to its enduring place in popular culture and fostering discussions about safety, heroism, and human behavior in times of crisis. When it comes to political and historical significance, the disaster led to significant changes in maritime safety regulations and practices. It prompted the adaptation of stricter safety measures, including the requirements for, more lifeboats, improved communication, and increased training for the crew members. The legal implications and aftermath of this disaster highlighted the need for international agreements on maritime safety, leading to the establishment of the International Convention of the Safety of Life at Sea, also known as SOLAS, which has been updated and expanded over the years. And when it comes to the scientific significance, the discovery of the Titanic wreck revolutionized deep sea exploration techniques, paving the way for advanced remotely operated vehicles, or ROVs, the sonar technology, and imaging systems. This breakthrough has enabled researchers to explore and document other underwater archaeological sites and ecosystems. And also, the Titanic wreck has provided a unique opportunity to study deep sea ecosystems and how marine life interacts with these shipwrecks. It contributes to our understanding of the colonization and decay process in deep sea environments. The study of the Titanic's corrosion and the deterioration has implications of understanding how various materials degrade over time in underwater environments. It has contributed to techniques for preserving other underwater cultural heritage sites. In summary, the Titanic shipwreck holds multifaceted significance that extends beyond its historical context. It serves as a memorial, a cautionary tale, a cultural touchstone, and a gateway to advancements in technology and scientific exploration. Its impact on safety regulations, international treaties, and our understanding of underwater ecosystems underscores its enduring importance.
So, Titanic is way more than just a big attraction or a big tragedy, isn't it? Anyway, you said that the opening of the movie Titanic had some significance to the story that we are discussing today. Care to elaborate on that?
Yes, Amanthee. I think we can all agree on the fact that the 1997 James Cameron movie, The Titanic, is the reason that we are talking about this topic today. If not for that movie, the story of the Titanic would have just been another historical event, and the shipwreck would have been completely forgotten by the general public. The reason why I'm saying this is that there are plenty of maritime disasters, incidents happening around all parts of the world, and even while we are talking. But to get the attention of the general public, it has to be something more than that. If not for that movie, the loss of this Titan submersible will just entertain the world for a couple of days. And that's the truth. The best example is the lost Indonesian Navy submarine. I think it happened during last year. This Indonesian Navy submarine went on a patrol and they never came back. Similarly to the Titan, they imploded underwater and all hands were lost. But before they went on their duties, they had recorded a song and they were singing inside the submarine, and they had uploaded this to the social media networks. And just because of this video, this incident went viral. So I think you will understand how powerful the 1997 movie was to bring the spotlight to this archaeological site and the incident that led to the most famous shipwreck in the world. What I want to highlight is that if you have seen the 1997 movie, I hope I'm not spoiling it to anyone. It starts with a scientific expedition. Even though it's a drama, a romantic movie, they try to communicate that the significance of finding this wreck site, and they take us through this shipwreck in a very emotional way, where they try to communicate that this is a grave site. 1,500 people died on this very space and place, and they try to communicate that there are remnants of these people, personal items such as hats, glasses, even toys. So what I want to communicate is that the 1997 movie nails the true nature of the Titanic wreck. Even though it is a entertainment source, it's amusing to look at this wreck, and scientifically it's a huge achievement to find the wreck and to explore it. It's someone else's grave.
Viewing the Titanic as someone's grave, well, that got a little dark there, didn't it? Anyway, moving down that line into the diving missions, there have been many diving missions throughout the years, if I'm not mistaken, both for research purposes and for viewings. Could you explain the kind of vehicles, the vessels that are used for these, and the challenges faced by the divers?
Yes, Amanthee. There have been several diving missions that were conducted to explore the Titanic wreck site. And they have used different vehicles and different technologies, and they have been progressing over the years. The main goal of these missions are to explore the wreck site, document the condition of the wreck, and map the debris field, and also to understand the marine life that's been colonized over the wreck site. The 1985 Discovery mission, conducted by Dr. Robert Ballard, famously makes the first successful discovery of the Titanic wreck site. They used the ROV Alvin. ROV is for remotely operated vehicle. So the first successful discovery was unmanned, because at that time the deep sea exploration vehicles, or these submersibles, were not up to the standards to take humans down to these crushing depths. And this ROV Alvin was equipped with multiple cameras and lights, and it was able to capture the first images of the wreck site, confirming its identity and also the coordinates that will help the future dive missions. And in 1991, a French research organization and the company named RMS Titanic Incorporation teamed up to capture high quality images of the Titanic wreck site. They used the ROV Nautil and Jason Jr. to explore the wreck site in more detail. And in 2000, again, RMS Titanic Incorporation conducted an expedition using the ROV Titanic. This mission focused on artifact recovery and documentation. Some artifacts were retrieved, but it sparked debates about salvage rights and ethical considerations. And in 2005, filmmaker and explorer James Cameron led an expedition to the Titanic wreck using the very famous Russian Mir submersibles. This mission was to capture high-definition 3D footage of the wreck site, and he used this footage to create the very famous documentary Ghosts of the Abyss. The most important dive in the recent history is the dive that happened in 2021. Explorer Victor Vescovo led this mission using the DSSV or the deep sea submersible vehicle pressure drop. He went to the wreck site multiple times and he was able to record high resolution mapping and imagery of the wreck site. And now we have a highly detailed, high resolution 3D model of the Titanic wreck site. This is very important because in another 100 or 200 years, the Titanic wreck site is going to completely disappear because of the natural decay process. And as we all know, in the very recent history, these privately funded organizations have been chartering these submersibles for the general public to visit and see the Titanic wreck.
And Ryan, then I'm going to move on to the most frequently asked question in June. What exactly went wrong with the Titan?
When you ask that question, Amanthee, it reminds me how the people from 1912 reacted when they heard that the Titanic sank. All trying to figure out what happened to the Titanic that day, because on their mind, what they have heard a few days ago is that the unsinkable ship is on her maiden voyage, and suddenly now it's gone. So people were trying to point out different theories, and there were controversy, and there were even conspiracy theories coming out. So I think the same thing is happening with the Titan. Yes, we know that it imploded. Yes, we know that there was something wrong with the hull. And yes, we know that poor technology was used and new technology was used that was not tested properly. So there are plenty of theories and there are plenty of sources you can read to entertain yourself. But my opinion is that we should wait and we should let the time solve this problem, because even today, we are still debating how the Titanic sank. Even with a lot of data we have collected and we have analyzed the Titanic wreck since 1985, and we still don't know how the Titanic sank and how did it happen. But what I can tell you is the basics of constructing a submersible or a submarine. And if you do not nail these basics, you can end up sharing the same fate of the Titan submersible. So the first important thing is that you have to understand the pressure under the sea. It's extremely critical. And when you go down to the depths, the pressure increases dramatically. And the submarine's hull and the material that is used to construct it should be capable of withstanding the immense pressure at these depths. And the second one is the buoyancy. When creating these vehicles or the submarines, they should achieve neutral buoyancy at these, the set depths. You can use ballast systems. It's similar to a tank filled with water to control the depths by adjusting the weight of it. And also it should have a proper propulsion method to gain mobility. And you can use thrusters and propellers just like what you can see in ships and boats. And mobility is extremely crucial because you're going to explore the sea and you should be able to move. And the power source. You might have heard this new word, submersibles. And you have heard about submarines for sure, but why would you call it a submersible and not a submarine? It all depends on the power source. So usually submarines, such as the ones we have in our navies around the world, they are independent in terms of the power source. They either carry the power as fuel or nuclear power. But for submersibles, their power is limited. And in the most cases, they need to rely on an external power source, such as the ship that they are tethered to the ship above. And if these things are not figured out properly, you will be vulnerable in the most hostile environment you can find on earth.
Finally, it wouldn't be complete if I didn't ask you for your thoughts on this. What do you think about the fascination surrounding the Titanic? And what do you think the future holds for this shipwreck?
Yes, sure. So, whenever someone asks from me, why are you so fascinated about this whole story and about this shipwreck? My answer is that yes, I cannot relate to it from where I live, from my culture, or and even I was born almost 90 years later when after the ship sank, and I cannot relate to it in any physical or emotional way. But if you read about it, if you watch the footage of the wreck, or if you watch the movie, and if you go into the depths of the Titanic, no pun intended, you will find some things that are common and general to us human beings. For me, Titanic is very similar to Hiroshima and Nagasaki incidents, Chernobyl incident, and maybe the Columbia shuttle incident. It's a permanent scar in our civilization, and those people made those mistakes while they were trying something. And more you study about the story of the Titanic, the social aspect, the cultural aspect, the technological aspect, you will learn something new. You will find the mistakes that those people did, and you can relate it to your day-to-day life as well. I know this sounds like a philosophical lecture, but sometimes we find motivation, we find things to learn from the most unusual places. I think Titanic is one of those good examples that we can use to learn something. And the other thing is that we should be respectful to the people who sacrificed, with or without their consent, to improve our civilization. And I think with the Titan incident coming up to the surface and the spotlight being shining upon the Titanic wreck, I think what everyone should be considering is that we should let these people rest in peace.
I really like how you identified the expeditions and the explorations that had gone wrong as sacrifices done so that we as a community or a civilization can go forward. That's a really nice way of looking at it. So, this brings us to the end of today's podcast. Thank you very much, Ryan, for that most insightful and interesting chat. And as always, before we wrap up, let me squeeze in some random classics fact. The word Titan means large, right? And Titanic is used as an adjective as well. So the word has its root in the Greek word Titan, which was a race of immortals that ruled the world before the famous Olympian gods like Zeus and Hera came to be. That's my random little addition. So with that, let's wrap up today's session. Again, thank you very much, Ryan. And I'd also like to thank the listeners and those who support Plenty always. So we'll meet you again with an interesting chat. Thank you very much and have a nice day.